Okay, good stuff. So I'm not going to trim this down in any way. I'm just going to let it run, and then the recording will go up as it is up on the Gen AI Skills Academy, which I'll show you how to access now in a moment. So like I said, thanks for being here. I'm going with some slides to show you in a little bit. But in terms of just a little bit of housekeeping, I suppose, up front, I'll just keep letting people in as they hit the waiting room here. If you can at all, if it's okay with you and you're happy enough to do it, you could turn on your camera. It just lets me know that there's people there and I'm not on my own, and we can have a bit of engagement, and that'd be wonderful. Still people coming in, so I'll just keep hitting admit here. There's probably a way for me to admit everybody automatically, but I'm not going to attempt to find that setting now as I'm chatting away. So thanks for coming to the meetup, the call, wherever you came from. It could be LinkedIn, it could have been TikTok, Eventbrite, Meetup. Probably, I think most of you are coming from Meetup. So thanks for being here. If you can turn on your camera, brilliant. It means I know there's human beings there. I'm not talking into the vacuum and into the void. But if your circumstances don't allow that, that's fine. So thanks for being here. As I said, there's about 30 odd people registered. They might come and go as we move through it. So if I'm interrupted, it just means I'm letting other people in and so forth. I've got some slides that I'm going to show, just present, and on the topic for today, which is data privacy. And the reason why I selected this topic for today is you probably heard of Claude Bot, or it's been renamed during the week to Moltbot, and a lot of controversy around this tool. It sits on your machine, it launches multiple agents, crawling the web, your own machine, and so forth. And everyone was really enthusiastic about this application, this AI application, and we're at risk, I suppose, of getting carried away with AI, with all these wonderful things that it can do, and it serves us to just be cognizant of the challenges or the dangers of letting AI run on its own without human interaction or human in the loop. And that's why I've chosen data privacy as the topic. And what I will say as well, this is my own research on the topic. I don't claim to be a data privacy expert. So please do your own research, find out what's going on, discover how these tools use your data, and satisfy yourself first. It always serves to do that rather than taking someone else's view. But this is what I found, and I'll present that for you shortly. The first thing I want to do is, if while I'm chatting away here, if you could just drop into the chat what you want to learn about AI or about Claude, that will help me structure the content a little better here on Fridays. So just take a minute as I'm chatting away to drop your comments into the chat and let me know, what is it about Claude that excites you? Maybe things that you're building, that you plan to build. Maybe it's to do with your work or your business, or maybe it's just productivity for yourself. How do I use these tools and so on? It doesn't matter what level of experience you have. Just drop it in the chat there and it will help structure and inform the content that we cover here in the workshop. Something else I want to show you, just share my screen real quick here. So this is the Gen AI Academy. It's something I started on a whim, and over the last number of weeks, maybe before Christmas, people have found it through social media or whatever and have joined. And this is where you can get the recording from today, and where you can share your thoughts, ask your questions, and engage with one another, whether I'm around or not, on AI and what it's all about. I'm building some courses in here. You can view members, you can see where everybody is from, find out a little bit about this place and what it does. This video probably needs a bit of an update since I recorded it, but nonetheless, this is where we can come together and exchange what we're doing and what we're learning, and ask questions and explore this topic. I find it vastly interesting, and maybe you do too because you're here. Something else I want you to do before I share the slides is a little poll. So just launching this here. If you could tell me how you're using Claude, or maybe you're not using it at all. Do you use it? Do you use Claude at all? No, sometimes, every day. I use it a little, want to learn more. How do you use it, or how do you access it? Is it via the web? Do you do it via the desktop app, Claude Code? Any of you who have got your hands dirty in Claude Code, chances are you may know more than me, and probably likely do, with regard to how to use Claude Code to its fullest. So love to hear what you have to say as well. And we'll talk, I suppose, a little bit later on about what you guys are doing and making and all the rest of it. So anyone else in the waiting room here? Not currently. All right. And this is anonymous, I should say. 10 out of 12 responded. That's great. Okay. I might just end this and move on. So to give you an idea where everybody's at, people who are using it every day, 40%, 20% use it very little, want to learn more. Some are not using it at all. How do you use it? 40% not at all. 40% Claude Code, 20% desktop app. No one on the web, which is interesting. Okay. Good stuff. So have we any comments here before I move on? Let's have a look. So let's see, ClaudeBot or Claude. So ClaudeBot, Adrian, it's been renamed MoltBot because of breach of copyright or whatever it was. So they've renamed it, but it's still the same animal, so to speak. It's nothing to do with Claude itself, Anthropic. It's not an Anthropic product. Annie Faria is conducting academic research, building a business with AI, building an application, good stuff. So hopefully this material will be helpful. And as I said, I'll say this again, I don't have all the answers, and I'll be relying on you girls and guys to provide input, maybe on some of the questions, the more technical stuff. That'd be great. Okay, more people coming in. So for anyone just joined, drop your messages in the chat there. Let me know what it is you want to learn, or how you're using AI, how you're using Claude, and that will help inform the content as we move on. So today's topic is data privacy. And I got on this subject this week because of the application that the internet got so excited about, ClaudeBot or MoltBot. And so it serves us to understand a little bit about how these companies use our data, and that's what I want to chat to you about today. Just shrink a few things down here. Okay, protecting your data with Claude. The agenda for today, glossary of terms. We'll shoot through a lot of this fairly quickly. We'll have a look at the core question we're actually asking here. Where the data goes, how it's retained, some comments on Claude Code itself, browser and desktop app risks or challenges, a little word on MCP servers and the risks associated with those, some practical steps to protect yourself and your information, and indeed your client's information, personally identifiable information. If you folks are involved in research, your data is vital. Anonymity of your data, especially if you're using human subjects, you need to be careful about how that data is saved and exposed. And then we go to you folks for questions and observations and input. And look, as I'm moving through this, If you feel like unmuting yourself and telling me to stop and asking a question, or you want to make a point, that's perfectly fine. You're able to do that. So don't be restrained on that. So the more we hear from you, the better. So a little bit about Gen AI Skills Academy. I'm Larry Maguire. I'm a psychologist and lecturer and writer, occasional writer. I created the Gen AI Skills Academy as a learning space for people who don't necessarily code. If you code, that's brilliant. There's room for you too. In fact, those of you who are more skilled in that area will add value to the community. So it's where we can maybe learn to be more efficient and use these tools in the appropriate way. Not get too carried away. I'd have to say I'm right kind of on the fence. I'm not overexcited about these tools. You have to be wary, curious, but skeptical is the way I like to put it. But also, it's not. It doesn't serve to be completely skeptical of the tools to such an extent that you don't touch them at all. So it serves us to experiment, but be a little bit cautious at the same time. You can contact me here. I'm based in Dublin. 13 Fade Street is where I have a small office. I'm on LinkedIn, Larry G. Maguire, you'll find me. And then obviously Gen AI Skills, as I mentioned. I started teaching digital skills, digital transformation and AI skills to businesses around 2023 after ChatGPT launched. I was curious about this new technology and what it was all about. And a colleague and I collaborated on an AI training course for businesses that we've been rolling out. We're on our eighth cohort right now, and we'll be continuing on through the rest of the year. And as you can probably imagine, it evolves every couple of months. It's not stagnant, it's a changing area. Okay, some terms that I probably don't need to mention. Claude, yes, you know Claude. It's created by Anthropic. It's available on web, desktop, API. Claude Code is a developer tool. It lives in your development environment or on your machine itself and helps you write documents, helps you and scripts and code and so forth, helps you edit materials as well. So you're given an access to the applications on your local machine and the documents on your local machine. You get to choose what they are. It really amplifies what AI can achieve when you use Claude Code over the Claude desktop app and on the web itself. Anthropic, who you know, built Claude. Prompts, don't need to tell you what a prompt is. Context window. Claude doesn't remember anything, by the way. It refers to files, and those files basically tell it what it should know, so to speak. It doesn't really know anything either. That might be a controversial statement to some, but for me, it's accurate. Claude reads what you give it and provides you with answers based on material that it's previously has learned. Model training, this is the bit that we're talking about today. The information that you give Claude, that you give ChatGPT, that you give Gemini, that you give Google and all these guys goes to train the model. And there's very little way out of that. So you have to be careful about what information you give to the AI. APIs helps you connect services together. They're basically language that allows applications send data between it and other applications. We'll talk a little bit about MCPs. They're basically packages of tools and services that Claude can access to get things done in short. Can be quite powerful again, but again, there's risks associated with MCPs, especially if you're accessing from third parties on the web. Okay, so is your data safe when you give it to Claude? Where is it kept? For how long? And who gets to view it? The short answer is it depends. It depends on a number of factors. Your subscription, whether you're on free or a paid plan, ranging up all the way up to enterprise. Enterprise accounts, I understand they're negotiable, so there's a somewhat of a different playing field there at that level. inside your privacy settings, which I'll show you, if you don't want your information to train the model, you got to switch it off. And I'll show you where that is inside Claude. And it depends also on how you access Claude, whether it's on the web, whether it's desktop, whether it's Claude Code, and how you set up your environment, your Claude Code setup, and what files and folders you give Claude access to. Credentials as well, passwords, usernames, authorization tokens, where you place them is really important, and how much you give Claude access to. Everything goes to Anthropic. Every interaction you have with Claude, the chats you enter, the images you give it, the files, the spreadsheets, the Word documents, everything that you give to Claude goes to Anthropic servers. And unfortunately, there's no way with Claude that you can go local only. You can't keep it restrained within your own local environment. There are other LLMs that you can install. That's a whole other conversation that allow you to do that. But with Claude, there's no, ultimately, perhaps if you're on enterprise, well, then you have a bit more security. But largely speaking, for everybody else, it's all or nothing. Prompts and responses are transmitted, although they're secure when they're transmitted. When they arrive on the server, they're not necessarily. So the contents of files that Claude reads goes to Anthropic. Like I said, they're encrypted in the transfer from your machine to Claude to Anthropic servers, but largely speaking, when they get there, they're not. That's what I understand. You might have found different, but do verify this for yourself. Stored in readable format, according to my research. As I mentioned, other models you can host locally, but you do need the equipment, the local hardware to set that up. Llama, Mistral, they can operate locally. Who can access your data? According to Anthropic, its employees can access your information for security and safety. Again, how that's defined is up to them. Investigating policy violations, responding to legal requests. What is a legal request? In other words, if your information is sent up there and the government, whatever government wants access to it, in theory, they can get it. And that leads on to a subsequent point. We don't know where the data is saved. It could be in multiple locations and likely is. So you can't say that your data is stored on Western Europe servers in Western Europe or in Texas in the United States. You don't know. They do say, however, that they don't sell your information to third parties. Okay, maybe. How long is your data kept? 5 years to 0, depending on your account. Free, Pro, and Max plans. If you have training turned on, your data is stored for 5 years, according to Anthropic's information. With training turned off, that's down to 30 days. So I'll show you where to turn that off now in a second. So it's advisable you do that. I have mine turned off. It still means that my information, and so is yours, is saved there for a period. With team and enterprise accounts, it's slightly different. So there's no training. It's 30 days and that's it. With the API, apparently 0 retention. But again, you need to check into that if you're going down that road. It can be more expensive if you're accessing Claude via API rather than through the web and through Claude Code. So change your settings. Here's the links. You can check these out in these slides when I send them on to you. This is what it looks like. So in Claude, you'll hit the profile in your profile image in the bottom left-hand corner, go to Account Settings and Privacy, and the 2 buttons that I've highlighted here in the bottom right-hand corner of that screenshot is where you turn off location metadata and the training, opt into training. So turn them off is what I would advise. So local versus cloud. when you install Claude Code locally, it has access to, or it creates a command line interface where Claude only reads what you give it. So it's not going to read your whole machine necessarily. Claude in the cloud will, if you're accessing in the cloud, Claude Code in the cloud, it will read your entire repository. Now, if you're not familiar with GitHub, I'm not going to get into that today, but it's essentially a place where all of your files and folders associated with your development are saved. If you give Claude access to that, it's going to copy it or clone it, and it's going to have access to all of the information. And that includes passwords, authorization tokens. The whole lot is cloned to Anthropic servers. So you really need to be careful. I would have used this, access Claude Code this way in recent times, but since I discovered this, I don't do it anymore. So people coming in, so be aware of that. If you're Claude Code on the web, if you want to access Claude Code, again, it's in the left-hand menu, the menu bar on the left, and that's where you get in and you can use Claude Code. It's a bit of a learning curve, and I understand it turns a lot of people off because it's a bit techy, but if you want better and more advanced features, Claude Code is the way to go. A little bit more of a learning curve on that. Everything you give to Claude using this method on the web is copied to Anthropic servers, so worth keeping that in mind. A little bit more on GitHub, but I'm going to fly through this really quick because it's just a little bit techy. Long story short, how you set up your GitHub repository matters for where your credentials are saved. Might get into that in a little bit more detail in a later session. If you're interested, you can let me know in the chat there. But suffice to say that GitHub is a place where all of your changes, all of your files and folders that you create using Claude Code are saved and backed up, and your changes are tracked. And if you're into development software, you know this already, and I don't need to tell you anything further. If you're not into developing software, we can have a session on this at another time because it's a bit techy and involved. Again, I'm going to fly through this piece because the env file essentially is a little bit more about GitHub, so I'll move through that one. I mentioned this already. When you access Claude Code via the web, you give it access to your entire system, and likewise, if you're using Claude via the desktop application, there are ways by which it basically creates a virtual environment, and that information is saved to Anthropic servers also, which you can invoke. You can revoke those permissions. You've probably heard of the Chrome extension. If you use Chrome, access Claude Code, turn on the extension in your browser, and it can access websites on your behalf. But there's some things you need to understand and know about the data that it gathers when you do so. It captures screenshots, for example, of the applications that you have open and the tabs that you have open, and they all go to Anthropic servers also. You got to be careful because you could expose your usernames and passwords, so be aware of that. That includes your logged in sessions if you're logged into applications. There is a risk as well, and this was a particular problem with Claude Bot that everybody realized after a few days of using it, becoming overexcited, is that sometimes if Claude is crawling websites and you've given it permission to crawl those websites via the Chrome extension or otherwise, it doesn't necessarily stop malicious script from activating because you're essentially just opening your front door. So you really have to be careful about what websites you give the Chrome extension access to and what information is exposed as a consequence. Some suggest you set up a separate browser profile if you're doing work-related stuff. Personally speaking, I don't use it very often. I've done some experiments, but I don't like the idea of exposing my local files and my website sessions to third parties. And until I'm satisfied that it's secure, I'm not going to do that. And perhaps you should err on the side of caution also. I'm going to just pause there for a second, just check the chat, and let's see. Comprehensive presentation. Okay, Ivan, comparison of Claude Code versus Cursor AI. Okay, thanks, Ivan. Where else can I use Claude? For example, can I use it to automate file processing? Yeah, it's something I do, Ivan. I create, well, in terms of Word documents and presentations, this presentation, in fact, I used Claude to create this. I gave it the information that I wanted, and it spat out the presentation for me. I also used it to create Word docs and so on. So if that's not specifically what you were referring to, we could dig into it a bit. Corinne is looking for a good comprehensive presentation ready for LinkedIn carousel. Okay, a little bit more on that, Corinne. Tell me more. If you have any queries on any of that stuff I just touched on, drop it in the chat and I'll do my best to answer it. Nearly finished this, and then I'm going to hand over to you. Right, there's 18 in the room, and I know a lot of you, some of you at least, will have some stuff to offer. Maybe some things that you're making and some questions that you want to ask or whatever. So we'll just finish off this presentation, and then I'm going to hand it over to you for your contribution. With regard to the application on your desktop app for Windows and also for Mac, you're given permission to the application to access other applications on your machine and files and folders. And there are vulnerabilities associated with that. Again, through the connection of the Claude Chrome extension that's related to this, you're essentially opening your front door in some cases. Sensitive apps before enable, close sensitive applications and so forth before you enable that. If you're running on a Mac, which I am, the application opens a virtual environment for its actions. Okay, quick summary. The product, Claude Desktop, basic chats, in other words. So it's not local, it's on the web, and all your prompts and the files that you give it go to Anthropic servers. Claude Desktop and Co-work, that latest feature that came out, this creates a local virtual environment, as they call it, on your machine, which is where it operates. And there are implications for that. You need to get up to speed on how that works and the permissions that are activated when you let that inside. Claude Code, again, runs on your machine, only reads the files that you give it, and only reads the prompts that come back and forth. They're saved, sent again to Anthropic. Claude Code in the cloud, your entire GitHub repo is sent, including passwords, including authorization tokens, the whole lot. So be careful. And then file generation, if you have Claude creating files for you on the web or otherwise, they're saved to Anthropic servers as well. Long story short, Anthropic knows what you're doing and what you're creating. So maybe we need to be a little bit more selective. And just a final word on MCPs. Some of these, a lot of these are made by community environments or whatever, GitHub people making stuff and sharing it around the place, and they sound great. But you got to be careful because they ask for credentials. You don't know who made them. You don't know what script is operating inside. They can be vulnerable to command injection and to accessing your files and folders. So just err on the side of caution. Create your own. Use Claude Code to create your own MCPs. That's what I do. Right, we went through this already. Practical steps. Opt out of training. Switch it off. Showed you how to do that. If you're part of a larger organization, maybe you have the funds and resources to access an enterprise account. If that's the case, consider it, or indeed a team account for business and work related. credentials are saved depending on how you add those. So be aware of where you've saved your credentials on the system, so that they're not sent to vulnerable locations. And what else have I got for you here? Okay, don't add confidential client data if you're working with sensitive information. Be careful, legal, medical, etc. Be careful of what you upload. You should have an AI privacy policy, an AI and data privacy policy. It should be linked to your internet policy and your data policy broadly. But if you haven't addressed that, I was in a meeting with a client during the week. We were talking about how to employ AI, and we got onto this topic. I asked them how they were, and were they aware of the risks, and everyone just looked at each other, and nobody spoke. So organizations really need to get up to speed with the data privacy piece, otherwise you're at risk. Okay, so we'll just go to questions. I'll get out of this, stop sharing, and just get your input on some of that. If you have any questions, maybe you want to come in or drop your comment in the chat there. Please do. Any thoughts or otherwise on any of that? We're all a little bit wiser now, maybe. Okay. So I'll hand it over to you. What are you making? What are you building? How's it going? What do you want to learn more about? Take it away. You can unmute yourself, whatever you want. It's all yours.
Larry, thank you very much for the presentation. It was very interesting, and to know that there's such a wide period of data retention. I wasn't really aware. 5 years in some cases, even for paid versions. I thought that paid versions would be a little bit more. You would have that would be the price for privacy,
Exactly,
but
yeah.
apparently it isn't. I was wondering if someone in the group, because I haven't used Claude Code. I do use Cursor AI, so I'm able to automate code building and with that part. So, and I wonder if someone has used Claude Code, because I heard it's a different perspective, but just understand how it works, and someone else's experience here in this group.
Good stuff. So you're using Cursor, and you are not using Claude Code inside Cursor.
I'm not using Claude Code yet. I read about it. I've seen a few things, and I was curious, and that's why I joined this group. But I haven't used Claude Code, just Cursor AI, which you create as agents, and
Yeah.
you keep vibe coding and asking to build stuff.
So you have access to the Gemini models and the OpenAI models, and so forth,
Yes.
inside Cursor. Am I right?
Yes, and also I think it's Opus. That's the one
Yeah,
for Claude. Yeah,
yeah.
I
Very
just.
good. Yeah. So you have the choice of whatever model you want to use when you're programming.
Yeah, though to be honest, I haven't seen much difference. They are
Okay.
pretty smart nowadays.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I noticed for if I want to design icons of things, I have to go back to Gemini Nano Banana or something like that,
Gotcha.
because for those they seem to be still a little bit less capable.
Okay.
But for code generation, I'm very pleased. Yeah.
So any coders on the call? Anyone code for a living? Is that if that's your job or your profession?
I can jump in.
Go for it.
I call myself a generalist, but I can code. And I have been following the coding space, even at a comparison website on GitHub. for AI coding. Um, Cursor is a VS Code clone. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cursor has added a CLI tool. Historically, the strength for Cursor has been the real integration into the IDE that you don't have with Claude Code. With Claude Code, it's a CLI tool and remote agents, which Cursor, I think, also added, but I'm not 100% sure. But they are kind of moving in the same direction to basically give you tooling that can give you more hands-off approach and in order to do more with one prompt. Yeah. You really plan features out with the AI and get a lot of details, work out the different tasks, and then say, this is everything you need to accomplish. I've heard that the plan mode in Cursor is really good. What I find the biggest differentiator from Claude versus the other tools is that they started off with the commands and the skill system and plugins and hooks. And especially the hooks where you can automate and put in guardrails and linters and testing. You basically can automate the coding process and put in the guardrails to avoid big failures. Like if you want to push something to GitHub, it has to run through certain things. So pre-commit hooks, also hooks that if you want to make sure that it never reads your secrets file, you could have a pre-read hook in Claude. So you have all the tooling to make it more robust for a professional programmer. And that's where the different other tools seem to be lacking a little bit because they have, well, like OpenAI is focused on lots of different use cases. Google also has a much broader user base that they try to service, like with the image generation models, while Cursor is focused also on the coding space, but Claude has the advantage that they have the model that they can train, you have the Claude codes that they can make a perfect pair. Cursor is catching up because they also have their own model now, but I don't think they have the experience in actual the LLM skills to basically get it faster, better. So that's the
Okay,
general view comparison. Yeah.
so a smarter LLM, and you kind of define like almost like a continuous integration pipeline where you define you once
Yes.
you're okay with the code, it just goes through different treatments until finally it can
Yeah.
automate all the
Yeah.
process up until GitHub or
Yeah.
code
Yeah.
repository.
I'm not saying it's not possible with Cursor, but I think Claude Code is ahead in that space. Yeah, there's some basic things built in, but it's a race. Yeah, another release,
Yeah.
something changes, and they kind of are catching up.
Thanks, Corinne. Fair play.
Yeah.
Annie, did you want to come in there? You have your camera on. Andre, did you want to come in there at all?
Sorry. I'm back.
No bother. Did you want to come in, Andre?
Yeah, sure. So I do work in front end and back end as well, partially. I started using Cursor like 3 weeks ago on daily basis with agents and playing mode. And I found it quite effective, and it does optimize my workflow. It mostly does a lot of like routine stuff. It takes away the boring part of programming, where I would spend maybe days for implementing some features. It can like generates the quite solid solution in like few minutes, and then I just need to check it to make sure that it's not breaking anything, and make some fixes, adjustments, ask it to like make it better solutions, research more, change something, and yeah, in general, it does speed up my time, like my work a lot. And I'm going to research more about how to automate and improve the workflow to make it even more optimal. Yeah.
I read recently that Anthropic have restricted access to their models through third parties like Corsair. Are any of you familiar with that? In other words, if you're inside Corsair or whatever happens to be, and you have access to multiple models, that the scope of access to those models is limited or pared back as compared to maybe having a direct account with and using Claude Code with Anthropic.
I didn't use Claude Code directly. I do use Claude Code models inside Corsair. I didn't face any restrictions or limitations. I only faced the limitation of my subscription in Corsair. I used all the tokens, and so yeah, I just had to increase the subscription, and I could just continue working. I do use mostly Sonnet and Opus. I found them more, let's say, smarter. The difference is not that big comparing to ChatGPT Codex, but the Cursor model, I don't remember how they called it. They came up with their own model. It is faster than others, but I find it not that good. I don't like the solutions I get for, especially for more complex prompts, for more complex problems. It doesn't give that good results as other models.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And when you say you use a different model, is it like is it a plugin or is it the option in the agent where you can choose between Opus, Sonnet, GTP, Codex?
Inside Cursor, there is an interface for agents, and you can choose which model you want to run it with.
Yeah.
And you can also choose if you want to use like three different or two different models at the same time for the same prompt, and they will generate you different solutions, like their own solutions in in their own Git branches, and then you would be able to compare them between each other, apply, try it out, or revert the changes. And yeah, I was playing around with different models.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I found that Sonnet and Opus are more or less like I like them more comparing to the ChatGPT codex.
Okay. Interesting. Thank you.
And tell me, what are you folks doing, or how are you handling the context window limits, and what's your strategy there, or have you encountered that problem?
I didn't get to this point. I know this is a problem because it does eat up the like tokens, and so yeah, this is something I'm going to research how to minimize the context. I know that there is some method to create rules for each, like, let's say, folder to provide a more detailed information regarding the domain of this like feature or part of the project. So to provide to directly say what you have to research and where you should look up to, yeah, to limit or reduce the amount of context it's using.
Yeah.
And also, yeah, this is something I'm going to research, yeah, to make it less consumption. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of went to just I take so much value of this that I was happy to pay the at least the mid tier, the first paid tier. And I use it daily and I haven't reached out. I would say that I have people that I know that they create multiple agents at the same time, or they're working in several applications at the same time. I'm not so good at multitasking that way.
Yes. Yeah.
That would be a good way to burn through all the credits, but
I've experimented a little bit with parallel agents in Claude Code. So
Mhm.
I had a task, and each task was fairly predictable. It was like the same task, but there was rather than having Claude do them all sequentially, I said, right, launch
Mhm.
parallel agents to conduct these tasks all at once, which it did. It seemed to do it very well, but I was already halfway through, 50% through my context limit for this particular conversation. So by the time the agents had done their work and they were reporting back, I hit the maximum threshold, and then I had to compact. Now I didn't, on the face of it, I didn't lose any of the work that was done. At least I don't think so. But it just interrupts the flow a little bit, and it damages. Well, I was questioning as to the accuracy of the work
Mhm.
that was done because I ran out of context and I had to start again. So it's a bit of a frustration, especially if you're planning something. If you're planning a complex piece of work, uh, you need a good strategy, I think, and I'm still figuring that out. You know.
And is it how determined? I'm using a very technical term, but how deterministic is that? Because what I found about the AI generating code is that every time you ask the same thing, you will get some different answer. There's variation. There's even a parameter temperature that controls that. So if you were to ask to several agents in parallel to do something, will you not get inconsistent results?
Good point. Yeah, and you're dead right, because the task I gave the agents was to create, based on a Word document template, to create Word documents, a report for each task. And on one or two occasions, the agents had chosen skills, different skills, to produce the output. So when I'm looking through the 7 or 10 documents, two of them were different, and I'm like, what's going on? So this is why. So thanks for that. They've
Right.
obviously went a different route to solve the problem.
Okay.
Yeah, good point. Yeah,
But
good
it's
for raising
still
that.
you still got the others good, so it took you less time to fix the ones that were exceptions than to create them all at the same time
Exactly. I
manually.
had to
Okay.
go back and say, I had to go back and instruct it to follow the format of
Hmm.
ones that it actually got right. And I found, as a consequence, now thinking about it, uh, sequentially teeing up those tasks would have probably got a better result. I don't know.
But
I'll
this, but
experiment with
this,
that.
but this is a kind of a good test case to see if there's no dubious instructions. If your parallel agents all execute the same way, then you know you have a good skill.
Yeah. And it didn't, two of the agents didn't follow the skill. That was, I had specific instructions in the project folder, but for whatever reason, two of the agents didn't follow those instructions specifically.
Okay.
Anyway, all right. Okay, well, anyone else got any questions, or anything they'd like to add or share?
Yeah, I have a question. Is this going to be some sort of regular meeting?
Yeah, I plan to hold it every Friday, but the topic is open. It's like whatever you guys want to talk about or discuss, or if you want to showcase something, that's cool as well. Um, so I kind of have an idea of, I come to unless I hear from somebody who has a specific query or whatever, I'll just come up with something to cover, with the intention of just doing a presentation and talking about a particular topic. But in the case that you guys have something specific, well then we'll cover that. And it doesn't need me, you don't need me to take the lead, so to speak. Like, it can be whatever you folks want to talk about, or whatever you want to work on. Um, but I'm conscious that there are beginners and there are people in the middle and there are experienced people. So I don't want to scare people off at the same time. I want to try and keep it kind of broad, if that makes sense.
Very good. I have one question, and I'm sorry I'm skewing to the technical side,
No problem.
which it's but if any of the other people here in this group have done development, and I see at least two people have, um, one of the things that I found very that seems that at least Cursor AI with the models that I'm using keeps failing. It's a little bit hit and miss. It's it's when it comes to rendering things, because CSS obviously can change very dramatically how things show up in the screen, and it seems that these models are looking at HTML and maybe CSS, but as the files, not at the actual renderization. Does anyone have any advice when it comes to, you say, I want this to be in this specific position or in this corner, and for some reason it keeps failing, it keeps trying, it keeps telling you you're right, but still every time it reworks, it doesn't seem to find the place. How do you handle that if you came across these type of problems?
Corinne, you got any thoughts on that, or Andrew? I wouldn't be equipped to comment on the technical side.
Yeah, so I would say that not all things are possible to fix or implement only with model. Sometimes, like I work on my side project, and sometimes I have very complex problem or feature to implement, and it's just hard to make the prompt so elaborate and detailed to make the model actually generate a working solution. For example, I'm using a third-party library for drag and drop for React, and it's the documentation not greatest in the web. And there are some examples, but there is no source codes for those examples, and you have to actually research the GitHub source codes of the examples, and because of that, model doesn't have that much data for training, and it's not clear for the model how to actually implement it in a way so it doesn't break. For example, like it did implement the solution, but it was working very inefficiently. It was causing a lot of performance problems, and you like I have to actually go and learn and see how exactly I need to implement it so it works for me, especially when you have to combine multiple different libraries for different like problems, like scrolling, virtualization, and then drag and drop. So it gets too complicated for the model. So yeah, not everything. I would say not everything you can solve with a model, and even if it does, it doesn't mean that it will be the most effective and optimal solution. And sometimes it most likely will not cover all the edge cases. It may like break or have some exceptions at some edge cases. So yeah, it's if you don't have a technical background, it might be challenging to actually like rely on AI like on daily basis. Yeah, it is challenging.
Okay. And no, hopefully the models will get smarter and smarter, but I do have that feeling that sometimes it finds a solution, but it's doing brute force. It's doing over and over the same things, and you only realize because sometimes I only realize because it's consuming an external API and it's reaching the limit for something very simple, and then I realize it's loop after loop after loop, things like that. But okay, thank you very much.
All right, folks. Yeah.
I just shared something about Tessa in the chat. Well, you should look at the website to understand it. But it's basically, yeah, context management, getting the what's available open source, getting that in LLM ready format from the source code, not just the documentation that you can install in your repo. As for visual changes, if you just let an LLM create a website, a web page, it will create a lot of duplicate code, and it will be doing different different things in different places. So the technical implementation might look the same, but it might be technically be different CSS classes in one area than the other. So if you don't get a good result, I would say ask him to go look at duplicate code, refactor, and then see if you can get the CSS correct. Codex in general is good at analyzing these kinds of bugs, better than Claude. Just purely analysis, what's wrong. I guess that if you use Cursor, then you can use the OpenAI models too, I'm assuming.
Yeah, you can use a ChatGPT 5.2 codex. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's different additional MCP and the Chrome. If you use Claude Code, you have the Chrome Dev extension and the Google developer tools that can really give more of the browser model, the DOM, and all of that feedback into the AI. So with those tooling, the AI can kind of debug itself.
Okay, that's interesting because that's where I see
Yeah.
it fails is that
Yeah.
it doesn't see what I'm seeing. It just probably sees the HTML, raw HTML,
but you can also give it screenshots. Huh?
Yeah, that's
and you could do could use Google with the screenshot and an export of the HTML page and use a free tier there to just do that one-off question.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. I will investigate that extension to put to Chrome.
Yeah.
That seems to be.
But generally changing tactics.
Yeah.
Asking it.
I mean, it's
5 times the same thing is not gonna work.
Yeah, there's still a lot of cleanup and things to do, but the truth is that overnight you can build an application, whereas before I would take days for sure.
My trouble is I built a prototype thing recently using Google Cloud Services just on the Firebase, and my problem is I don't know code. I know little bits and pieces, but not enough. So I don't know how well it's constructed in the background, and that's the gap, isn't it? So those who don't know development are kind of shooting in the dark to a large degree as to what's made.
It's still doable for personal projects, and for it's just that some of this code would not, like, if you're thinking like, oh, this is going to be a startup, my business, etc. You'll quickly run into problems of scale without looking into the code. For creating your own personal productivity tools, it still works, but even sometimes if it's brute force and it's not using the best idea, the best way, because it's just you, it still might be fine. But yeah,
Good point.
the thing is that they are getting better and better. When I first used 2 years ago ChatGPT, it was really interesting that it was fantastic at the time. I was impressed that it could interpret what I was saying, but the solutions were not very good at all, and every time would be something completely different. Nowadays, it's getting much better to the point that I can use it at least in personal projects.
Right. Well, listen, thanks for your contributions today. Good conversation. Hope you got something out of it. What I'd like to say for those still on the call, if you hit that link, you can take the conversation, continue the conversation going on Gen AI skills. And I know I'd value your input because that technical knowledge is something that people need, I think. So thanks for being here, and I might see you next week, same time.
Thank you very much.
All the best. Mind yourselves. Take care.
Bye-bye.